Thank you. So, first of all, I would just to see if there are any non-Croatian speaker here. So you can raise your hand. Oh, okay, so let's continue in English. Yeah. So I've been in the last presentation briefly about 5 minutes, and I saw the topic, and yeah, the topic was serverless and also the Azure. So it's not a serverless. It's more that you can use Data Factory as enterprise software, or you can use it as like some kind of proof of concept, or the same situation that you had with the serverless technology, logic apps and functions and flow and I don't know what other thing the guy before me said. Yeah, so my name is Debijađi, and I will talk about Azure Data Factory. So what I would also like to ask you, do you know the basic concept of integration? So please raise your hand who know anything about integrations. Okay, who worked with integration of those who know anything about? Okay, so let's go briefly about the concept of integration. So we have two guys. One is speaking Japanese. He liked Croatia, and he went there on the coast, and he would like to order something on or do something. In Croatia, we have Croatian language speakers who don't understand Japanese because we don't learn that in high school or before. So if Japanese doesn't know any English, because we do, they don't understand each other, so they can use hands and stuff like that, but basically they don't understand each other. So what do we need is a translator, the guy who know the Japanese, who know the Croatian, and the both ways around. So in the terms of systems, we have system A, we have system B. The both are communicating in their own language, and we have this translator. In our term, this will be a system integration engine that translates from one system to another. And that's the basic integration thing. So when we talk about this translation, this stuff here, that the guy, the translator knows the language Croatian and Japanese, these are adapters or connectors. And that's something that you've seen in the presentation before, where, I don't know, in Azure you have 250 different connectors to different solutions. And the same thing is with all other enterprise softwares. They have connectors to different systems, so they can understand both systems and then do their magic. They can integrate one system with another. So the concept of transforming or mapping that I would talk about here, it's basically when you say hello in Japanese, that you know that this is hello in Croatian. This is mapping one word to another word, or one value to another value, and that's all. So now we know the concept of integration. And sorry, before that, so these integration engines, there are lots of it. So there are really, really lots of integration engines. The most, you can use it the most in an integration system will have enterprise system will have a benefit of integration, because they can, in easy way, they can connect all pieces together. They don't need to custom develop something. They don't need a separate project per system, because if they have a lot of different systems, they can easily connect with the integration system in a few clicks. So when they invest, enterprises, they have their value back. But if you are small, or if you want to do something like a POC, you don't want to invest a lot of money, and you don't know what you will get in return. So these are some kind of costs of enterprise system, and they are great. I've worked for 5 years with the Beanstalk. It's Microsoft integration engine, and their cost is high, but this is a good value for them. But also with what I will show you with Azure Data Factory, that you can build something similar with really low cost. So my story about Azure Data Factory, how I started with that, it's in version 2. I started working with when it was in version 1 in a previous company that I worked. They had a really big enterprise customer, really big. And they have about, in one country, they had about 2,000 restaurants, and overall about 15,000 restaurants. And each restaurant put some file on a cloud storage. And they wanted us to move and those files to a database. So they can perform some kind of reporting, and they can extract business value from all this data. So the company that started POC with them, they use basically the PowerShell. So they move the data around and those files around with the PowerShell. So you don't do that in cloud. The PowerShell is like, I don't know, the system language, not the developer's language. I don't know if somebody is offended now, but it is. So the solution wasn't scalable. So when we got to around 300,000 files, and when we got to 2 gigabytes of files per day, there is a mess. So what we do, we researched and we find out about Azure Data Factory. It was in version 1. The version 2 wasn't existed. Now the version 2 is fully functioning, and we'll talk about it. So we implement their Azure Data Factory, and now they're transferring 30 gigabytes per day, and the cost is around $100, just the Azure Data Factory stuff. So they started with Data Factory just to POC. They didn't want to do that like the whole term. And then when they saw the benefit, and when they saw the implementation, they didn't want to move to any other integration engine. They could use Beanstalk, or they could use something else. So Data Factory, it's, as you understand by now, that this is a cloud data integration tool. The basics, when they start with version 1, was they were just used for copying data from one place to another. Now you can transform, process data, you can run the SSIS packages, you can write your own code and deploy it and execute it. Also, when we are talking about enterprise, especially we just talked with the guy from King, they don't want to go to the cloud because they have governments, they have a military, they don't want the data in the cloud. That's why Data Factory have hybrid solution. You can just process your files in the cloud and bring it back to your on-premises. It's really scalable, and you are paying as you use it. So you are not paying a license per core or per server or something like that. The basic concept of Azure Data Factory is that you connect, then you transform and enrich, and then you publish. So you gather all the data in one place, you are transforming it in the way you like it, and then you're just pushing somewhere. And then you can also monitor that data. The architecture of Azure Data Factory, the pipeline component is like an orchestrator. Everything is in this pipeline component. And it consists of all the different activities. The activities are the tasks. So if you want to move from one place to another, then to that place to another, then you transform and doing stuff like that, that is done in the activities. And everything is all orchestrated in pipeline. Datasets are the schema of the data. So that the system knows about the data, it needs to have this schema of the data. It's like a fingerprint of the data so that we know what we expect, what we will gather. And the link services are connection to different places. What I mentioned there, these custom activities. So there are two ways that you can you can use Azure Data Factory activity. One way is with this copy data, which is out-of-the-box thing, and you are using the whole infrastructure of Azure. The other way is that you create your own code in any language that is supported, and then just leave it on the server, and it will execute and run. And you can also match. In a demo, we'll show one activity written by our own, and the next one that we are using the Azure wizard to create it. So the custom activities are run on Azure Batch, which is a great scalable thing. You can scale it. You can orchestrate the tasks. I have a lecture on. I have this lecture on one of other conferences, so I will talk more about that. So the price of Data Factory is here, the pricing. So you pay $1 per 1,000 runs, and basically you have this, everything is paid by an hour. So we have example of that we done for one customer. It has 1,500 documents per month. They execute it once per day, and it moves from ECM to an FTP. ECM is an M files. It's like a document or content management system, and they move files to an FTP. They want it when the document is in one state, they want to move it to an FTP, and then some other client needs that files to do something. And it's about $8 per month. It's nothing. So you are executing every day. You are moving 1,000 files, and it's basically nothing. And that's what you are paying. So in demo, I will show you, like we have a local server. This is my computer. It will be like a hybrid connection and a cloud connection. So first, we will use a hybrid connection to connect to my local computer. Then we will move some files through Data Factory to cloud storage. And for that, we will use the out-of-the-box Azure activity that will connect to file server and the blob storage. And then we will orchestrate. Then after that, we will connect to this blob storage. We will use these files and enrich data that we have in a SQL database. And then everything we will send to this enterprise content management, in our case is N files. So we will have all the data gathered here. So now I'll show you. Okay, so this is a folder where I have these files that we will send to our cloud storage. This is our cloud storage. This is the starting page of Azure Data Factory. As I said, you can have copy data. And the copy data is like a wizard that will guide you. You just need the source, and then you need the destination, and that's all. You can have some kind of mapping if you want to map certain things that will go from one place to another, and it's next finish. And you have this in Azure Data Factory. The next thing is this pipeline component. So this is our pipeline component here. So our pipeline component is called db blob to m files. So you can see in pipeline component we have two different activities. One is copy data, that is from my local computer to cloud storage. And then after that, we have a custom activity that is run on a batch, and that will connect to this storage, enrich data with the database, and send to an M files. We can monitor everything here, and we will monitor that. So how you configure everything, you can see that you have a source and a destination. So for source is our data set. This is a local share, and you can see that data. You can see it here. I'm sorry. Here, just a second. You can see it here. And for custom activity, you can see that it's run on Azure Batch. So I will just trigger it. You can trigger it like this. Also, you can create an event that you want to trigger. So when the files are created on some kind of storage, or my database is updated, or something like that, or you can schedule it every day. It doesn't matter. So you can create your own trigger as you like. So there are lots of different things. So we will just trigger it now. So before that, we can just make sure that we don't have any files here. We don't. So we can go here. We don't have any files. What we will have here, we will have we will use files from file shares to a storage. Then we will gather those files and enrich with the person who is the owner of that file. So, for example, we have here employment agreement, and we will see the person from the database that have this employment agreement here. They will enrich data based on this ID that we have in a file name. Okay, so let's run it and see. So first, we are waiting files to be from my file storage to a cloud storage. We can monitor it here. You can see that the file is in progress. So it's going through my phone, so it should be quick. But how usually it works, that demo is not working, but it's still in progress. Okay, so files are here. And now we are just waiting files that they enrich and are transferred to an M file. This is like a document management system with a lot of different stuff that we can build. So we are waiting files here. So here are files. So we can see that the files are enriched, and they have John Smith in it. They have document date. So we can see that this employee is connected to these files that are originally here in my computer. So these are my contacts if you want, and if you have any questions, now it's time to ask.
Anyone?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you.